Okay, so this really is my absolute favorite um, piece of this class. We're going to dive a little deeper into the science behind essential oils. So I really want to begin with what are the molecules and the compounds of essential oils, okay? So if you're looking at one single drop of an essential oil, you actually have 40 million trillion molecules. This is huge. So if you're really looking at, just comparing, for example, one drop of essential oils with one drop of a traditional medicine, you would never have all of these molecules and all of these compounds, right? And this is really why essential oils can be so powerful, because we actually can offer the body such a big variety and it's such a big scope of compounds, like chemical compounds that are completely natural. Okay, so these compounds actually service every cell of the body in a matter of minutes. We're going to get to the timeline of essential oils in a moment. But what I want you to really notice here is that essential oils actually support the cell receptors, right? And so they also promote a healthy cell function, and they can actually maintain the cell's natural state. So for us to have healthy cells, what we really desire is for the membrane around the cell to be quite mobile and quite porous and also strong at the same time, so that viruses and bacteria cannot actually enter the nucleus of the cell, right? So for a cell to be to be healthy, it's got to be mobile. Okay, it's got to be flexible, it's got to be bendy in order to absorb the nutrients and expel the toxins, right? And receive the different compounds that the cell needs, as well as to expel those compounds that are no longer needed, right? And so when we're really looking at like the different families of classifications of essential oils, you're really looking at all of these different compounds. Okay, so the mints, for example, will have a lot more alcohol, or they will have more ketones, right? These would be energizing and calming, whereas in the citrus fruits, you will find a lot of monoterpenes. So these are really the molecules and compounds that are supporting our body with uplifting and revitalizing itself, right? In the spices, you will find more ethers and esters. So this is really what would be bringing in that mood of renewal and intrigue and mystery, right? We have some herbs and grasses. So here we have the main compounds would be phenols, right? So these are really the compounds that are in charge of comforting and soothing our body, right? When we move over to the trees, the woods, and this also would include some of the resins, you'll also find some alcohols. And again, this is very grounding and very balancing, right? And then with the florals, we have a lot of esters usually that are standing out, and this is really what allows the body to have more of a calming and reassuring like state of being. So coming back to the cell, when you're really looking on a cellular level, so here you actually see a very simple depiction of the cell, and around the cell you have the outer membrane. So already before I was mentioning that the outer membrane, we really want this to be flexible and bendy. And what really happens when cells are in an atrophied state, or when they have when there's inflammation going on in the body, what really happens is this outer membrane actually rigidifies itself. And as it's rigidified, for protection, unfortunately, it also contains sometimes, toxins for a little bit longer than it would need to. And so where essential oils really come in, and there's many, many more documentaries around this and how this really works, but just in a simplified way, essential oils, because so the outer membrane is mainly made of fatty compounds. And so when essential oils come close to the cell, what really happens is the cell actually begins to like the cell membrane begins to almost lubricate itself, right? And when we apply essential oils on a regular basis, what really happens is all of our cells become more more flexible, more bendy, more stretchy. And also essential oils have the capacity, because of those tiny little compounds that I spoke to you about just before, they have the capacity to penetrate through the cell membrane and actually service the cell on the inside. So here you're also seeing that on the outside, we have the bacteria. So usually bacteria are on the outside of the cells, right? They don't really go too much inside, whereas viruses will be on the inside of the cell, and they actually have the capacity to really go and play with the nucleus and to wreak some havoc in the body. Now, why is this important? When we are offering the body antibiotics, for example, they will be water soluble. So they'll be staying around the cell membrane, okay? Because as I said before, the cell membrane is made of fatty cells and fatty compounds. And those compounds that would be the quickest to go inside the cell would be fat soluble, okay? And so here you can see that any kind of medication would not be able to interfere. They would be able to interfere with bacteria, but if it's a virus, then they won't be able to interfere with the virus directly, because most medication is water soluble and not fat soluble, okay? Whereas essential oils can penetrate through the membrane of the cell and really go and begin to deactivate the intensity of viruses and other pathogens that would be actually within the cell. Also, essential oils have the capacity to completely permeate the cell and also offer support to the cell nucleus, which is the part of the cell that is in charge of pretty much all of the functions of the cell, right? So you really have to look at the nucleus, so that part inside the cell, it's actually the brain of the cell. So doTERRA, like not just doTERRA essentials, but any essential oils can actually permeate through the cell membrane and go inside the cell and begin to support the cell from the inside. So really applying different compounds and different beneficial chemistry within the cell membrane, and specifically around the cell nucleus, which is really the part that is the brain of the cell.